Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin, and welcome to Cavalcade of Food. And yes, we are back in the old Cavalcade Cookbook Library here at the Cavalcade, and we're featuring a cookbook this time that's a little unconventional. It is a cookbook. It actually made quite a big splash when it came out in 1960. 65 years ago. It is hard to believe 1960 was actually that long ago. And it is the I Hate to Cook cookbook by Peg Bracken. Now, some of you might be familiar with this, or you might be familiar with Peg Bracken. I will give you a little information. She was born in Idaho in 1918, but she grew up in St. Louis. She went to Antioch College and graduated in 1940, and then moved to Portland, Oregon, where she was an advertising copywriter. So Peg Bracken was a writer. I mean, that's what she did. It's what she did professionally, but she was, I'm trying to use a reference that might be a little bit more up to date. She was sort of the Irma Bombeck of her day. And if you remember who Irma Bombeck is, younger viewers won't know that name any more than they know Peg Bracken. But she had a wit and a sort of sardonic way of writing, and she made a big splash in 1960 with the I Hate to Cook cookbook, and that spawned a number of other books sort of with the same theme. But the book was a really big deal in 1960. Well, in 1960, books were still kind of a big deal, okay? You know why? Because people read books still in 1960. Actual books, you know, paper and ink. People read books, and books were culturally significant, and books were a big deal in 1960 because we didn't have phones to look at all day long, every waking moment. Our smartphones, I always thought it was ironic they called them smartphones because, let's face it, folks, they're really dumb phones, and they have made us sort of dumber, and that's just how it is. And I know, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. This is another old man ranting, but our smartphones, the jury's still out on how much those have really helped us. But in 1960, people were reading books, and this was a hot seller. It originally came out in hardcover, and I would say this is a first edition. I wish I had the dust jacket. I do not, but it came out in hardcover, and then it was followed by a paperback version, which was equally as well received. And it says on the cover, this is the paperback, a gem of a book and wonderfully funny. And how to laugh while cooking, or how to cook while laughing. So this is a book. On the back has a quote from Peg Bracken that says, "Some women, it is said, like to cook. This book is not for them. This book is for those of us who want to fold our dishwater hands around a dry martini instead of a wet flounder." A lot of things have changed in 65 years, but in 1960, you still had a lot of women, like my mother, who were homemakers. That was their job, and they took their job very seriously. And they kept all the wheels on the wagon, as they say, at the house, managing meals and appointments and doings and kids and everything else in between while Dad was off working. And so you had a lot of women who really were responsible for providing meals for the family. And not everybody likes to cook. I mean, I love to cook. A lot of you love to cook. But not everybody feels the same way. We all like to eat. I think that's probably easier to say. But not everybody really likes to cook. And Peg Bracken represented, in this case, women who really, there were so many things they would rather do than spend all day in the kitchen. And keep in mind, in 1961, a year later, is when Julia Child and company came out with their book, Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Recipes that were, in some cases, very complex, very involved, and very theoretical about cooking and the relationship of ingredients and all those kinds of things, which, again, some of us find fascinating and interesting and engaging, and other people are like, Peg Bracken was one of those other people. And I'll read the opening page here in the softcover edition. It says, "The genesis of this book was a luncheon with several good friends, all of whom hate to cook but have to. At that time, we were all unusually bored with what we had been cooking and therefore eating. For variety's sake, we decided to pool our ignorance, tell each other our shabby little secrets, and toss into the pot the recipes we swear by instead of at. These recipes have not been tested by experts. That is why they are valuable. Experts in their sunny, spotless test kitchens can make anything taste good, but even we can make these taste good." So that kind of gives you a background of where Peg Bracken was coming from. This book is still in print, by the way, and I will just give you an idea. The chapters include 30 day-by-day entrees, or the rock pile, the leftover, or every family needs a dog, vegetables, salads, and salad dressings, or this side of berry, spuds and other starches, or ballast is a girl's best friend, potluck suppers, or how to bring the water for the lemonade, company's coming, or your back's to the wall, luncheon for the girls, or wait till you taste Maybelle's peanut butter aspic, canapes and heartburn specials, or who started this business, and desserts, or people are too fat anyway, little kids' parties, or they only came for the balloons, last-minute suppers, or this is the story of your life, household hints, or what to do when your churn paddle sticks, and then good cookmanship, or how to talk a good fight. Anyways, it's a funny book. Really, her humor is great. It's very representative of the time. But all of that said, there are some really good recipes in here, and recipes that are not complicated, that are fairly straightforward and easy, recipes that can, be assembled and put together in little time, but that taste good, that are family pleasers. And her cooking instructions are very straightforward, and she's got Saturday chicken, hurry curry, Old Faithful. She's got chili night chili, lovely lamb shanks, Skid Row, stroganoff, Swiss loaf, Those are sort of entrees, and like I said, she's got every chapter is filled with fairly easy recipes. Um, Here's a recipe for roast beef. Roast the meat with the potatoes around it, as your big fat cookbook tells you to. Probably 22 minutes per pound in a 300-degree oven. Be sure the meat is at room temperature, too, when you put it in the oven. Okay, how much simpler can you get than that? But a lot of humor interspersed with the recipe. So this was followed up a few years later by the Peg Bracken's Appendix to the I Hate to Cook book, with over 140 recipes and 323 afterthoughts. And again, this is more recipes and sort of a continuation of the spirit of I Hate to Cook book. But Peg Bracken wrote not just about cooking and recipes, she wrote about etiquette. For those, there are perhaps, I know there are some young people, because I've met them, who don't know really what etiquette is, are unfamiliar with the word, and it is a kind of an idea that unfortunately is quite passé. But etiquette, if you want to know more, look it up and do some research, because there was a time when, for good or ill, however you want to argue it, people behaved in a certain way, and there were certain things you did and didn't do, and I know it probably really doesn't matter what side of the plate the spoon is on. I get it. But there was some order to things, and we don't really live that way anymore. But Peg Bracken wrote about etiquette in a really funny way. She wrote about housekeeping, and I happen to have the I Hate to Housekeep book by Peg Bracken. When and how to keep house without losing your mind. If it's loose, pick it up. If it isn't, dust it. If it moves, feed it. There you go. 3 easy steps, and an equally really funny book. Again, written at a time, when's the copyright date on this? At a time when, 1962, written, when most housekeeping duties were done by women. And so it's kind of written, it sort of plays to them, but it's still, I find it really funny, and there's a lot of great lines in this book. And a lot of very practical advice about how to keep your house minimally at least clean and organized without driving yourself crazy and overtaxing and overthinking what needs to be done on a daily basis to keep a household in order. The appendix to the I Hate to Cook cookbook led to a combined, the complete I Hate to Cook book, which put both of these volumes together. And again, I think the complete and the original I Hate to Cook cookbook, pretty sure they're still in print, and you can certainly buy them at your favorite local bookseller or online if you are so inclined. The whole idea of making cooking easy, especially for people who just don't like to spend time in the kitchen but have to, you can see goes back a long time. It actually predates Peg Bracken. She just really said it in a very funny and engaging way. But the idea of kind of easy meals The Can Opener Cookbook is one that comes to mind that was sort of in this theme about sort of being able to pull things together easily to make a meal. More recently, the term semi-homemade has been used to describe creating food that is in part already prepared or packaged, and doing that because, again, I love making things from scratch and spending the time in the kitchen, and that's me, and we celebrate that here on Cavalcade of Food. But that's not for everybody, and we've all known people who just didn't like to cook. And now, I think with the prevalence of, DoorDash and meal deliveries and all these things, I have to say, I think people actually are cooking less and eating more foods that somebody else prepared for them. And so it makes it especially important for me to sort of keep certain cooking traditions alive, or at least share them with people who are interested in them. But Peg Bracken was on to something 65 years ago where she just said, look, it ain't my bag. But she had a family to feed, and it had to be done. And so how do we do this easily and prepare things that actually taste good, that people want to eat? And so, again, I recommend this book. It's your library might have it if you just want to take a gander, because it's really a classic. And if you remember this book, or if you or your mother, grandmother, somebody that you knew had a copy of this book, let me know in the comments. Like I said, this was a very hot-selling book. They sold a lot of copies. I don't know how many printings this went through, but over the years, but it really sold well because it appealed to a lot of people. And it even appealed to people who were experienced and enthusiastic cooks, because it's funny. And you know what? We like funny things. We need more things that make us laugh in this world. We have enough of the other stuff. So it is a funny book. And again, it's very representative of its time that it was written, but I still look at it from time to time and have made a couple of the recipes. And again, they are easy. They employ a lot of simple ingredients, and they taste good. And so I think she really assembled a nice collection in these books of recipes. So that is a look at the work of Peg Bracken. She passed away in 2007, so she 89, I think she was, and she wrote a number of books, really. She even wrote a book. Her last book was written, maybe 10 years or so before she passed away, but it was about getting older, and she had a lot of interesting and funny insights into that process as well. So she was a writer first and foremost, but she kind of did know her way around the kitchen a little bit, even though her ways were all sort of abbreviations and shortcuts to get to a finished product, but it was still good. So that's our cookbook for this time around. We've got a lot more to look at and talk about in cookbook episodes to come, but I want you to know I appreciate you spending some time with me. Again, sorry for ranting. I get on these tangents, but I appreciate you listening, watching. Really appreciate you subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. There is a website. It's called cavalcadeoffood.com, and I invite you to go there. You can connect to my other YouTube channel, which is always analog. You can connect to my weekly radio broadcast, the Cavalcade Radio Hour, where I celebrate the wonderful music of the golden era of recordings. That is the era of the LP, by the way, basically 1948 to 1978. Most of my music is in that time frame. And we'll look forward to seeing you back again here real soon on Cavalcade of Food. Be well, be warm, and take care, everybody. Bye.